Good evening and welcome to the live stream of the podcast. This is the first episode of 2022, and I want to wish you all a very happy new year. We have a great episode lined up with two great guests, great friends of mine and of the different podcasts that I have the privilege to work on. They're going to talk to us about a lot of things. They're going to talk to us about getting recently over COVID, what's that like? Jacqui Painter, who is our guest tonight, along with Carlos. ¿Cómo están?
Bien, bien. ¿Y tú?
Welcome to the bien, gracias. Welcome to the live stream. So, Happy New Year. I'm glad to see that you are both feeling well and healthy again, just getting over COVID. Now, neither one of you had COVID before, right? In the last 2 years, no? Like you were able to.
Somehow we were able to avoid it. It was it's very surprising.
Yeah.
That we were, because we're everywhere all the time. Since March 2020, when the government told us all to stay in, I did the opposite and started mutual aiding around the neighborhood and district. And, thankfully we were both safe this whole time, but it was right before Christmas. So
yeah, and even though the masks are obviously extremely effective, and that just shows that it's important to double mask and to vaccinate and boost, because even with everything, it's still the new variant spread. So that's why it finally caught us. It's inevitable, but it was definitely interesting experience it for the first time.
What were the symptoms? What you expected? Was it? I mean,
it was
like a regular cold, like the flu. What was it like?
It was a little better than I thought, just because I was nervous. Like, you hear, of course, always you hear the worst stories from everyone, but it could have been worse. We both have the vaccine, and we both have the booster shot as well, so I think that helped the symptoms. And it was like a flu. It was like a bad flu. It was very interesting. I think the most interesting part about it, and maybe this is, the vaccine working, I'm not sure, but it was almost like it was very on and off, even by the hour. It was like 1 hour you would sit up and you would feel great.
Yeah.
And then you'd make food or something, and then the next hour you were down for the count.
Yeah.
And then day by day it differed. So it definitely was like very up and down the whole time.
Yeah, and it definitely felt weird. It was definitely, even though I don't think the symptoms for me, definitely you had it worse than me, but for me the symptoms were definitely very different than anything I've ever had before. And I could feel that it was different. And definitely at the beginning was, for me, the worst. And just like the headaches and like the feeling like you have a flu, but it was different. I think that's the thing. Even though it was like kind of like overall like a flu, it still felt different.
The headache was so bad. The headache was the worst. The headache was like the number one thing that was like something as, it just sucked. It sucked.
Who had symptoms first?
I think I did. But you.
The thing is that I had a cold.
Had some weird
I had a cold.
Before.
Yeah, I had a cold. It was so I guess the week of Christmas. Well, Christmas Eve was that Friday of that week, and I had a cold the week before. So I usually get colds when the seasons change, of course, like normal, and but I had a bad cold, and I got tested. I took several tests.
And it was all negative.
And they were all negative. It took PCR tests, rapid tests, all negative. And then Saturday we had a toy drive that was just a cold, rainy day. And so we had to move the toy drive inside in the school. And, maybe it was on that day, but we could never really be sure because we were doing so many things, many community events that whole week and that weekend. And then Sunday, we actually got tested on Sunday after the toy drive, just because we normally are very good at testing. And we went and got tested at the van. and it was negative. And then we had a at-home test that we got from the van, so we took them home. And then I think we had a big food distribution on Tuesday, and on Tuesday morning I was feeling cold symptoms again when I was just kind of feeling better, and so I actually took a rapid test that morning, and it was negative. So I left the house early and went, and we did a massive food delivery with a big truck and everything, and then Carlos tested on Wednesday.
Yeah, on Wednesday I tested. And the day before I definitely felt very sick and tired, and I was like, something's wrong with me. And what was concerning was that I took the test feeling already with symptoms, and it was negative. It was the next day that I tested positive. So it's very important to test multiple days and to not just rely on one test. You know, maybe you have symptoms, you test, it's negative. That just could be that you don't have enough of the virus yet to show. So we found out, and those days were a little tough. Those first several days, definitely we felt more of the heavy, like tiredness, headache, just congestion, and it was definitely weird. But yeah, we were lucky that I have supportive people that helped us out, food and stuff, and that lots of soup definitely helped.
Oh God,
Jacqui was tired of the soup. I loved it, honestly. I was like,
God.
I could keep eating soup. I have no problem. But
and that's one thing that I've heard from a lot of people who are vaccinated, that on and off feeling.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not the first time I hear it. I have some friends that recently caught it. They're vaccinated and they're like, you feel really good, like nothing's happening, and then like the next day you feel like terrible, and then you feel good again, and then terrible again, and but I guess the key thing is that you're able to kind of fight this at home. You're not in, I guess, any danger of like getting extremely sick. Where early on when this first came on, people were getting hospitalized like crazy, and now it's a little different. And I think the vaccine, without a doubt, is the key to getting through this until there's enough, I guess, immunity where it becomes an endemic, and we can kind of go back to like the way things were before this. I had it and didn't know I had it back in 2020, like March of 2020, which is the only time that I kind of felt weird and off. And the reason why I found out I had it, or must have had it, was because the big shutdown happened like March 17th, around there of 2020. So I was out and about before that. There wasn't much known. They kept saying that the symptoms were a dry cough and a fever or a temperature, which I had neither of, and I never even had like a cold in all of 2020. The only time I felt off was like maybe that first week, and I clearly remember this. This was like a Thursday. I was extremely tired. Like I've never felt like this heaviness, and I was just tired and beat. And by then I was already working from home, and I was on my couch working on the computer, and I couldn't stay awake, and I completely just kind of passed out. And that was the only time I felt weird. And then so I was on a Thursday, and then a Friday, I still felt as tired, but not as tired. I never thought it was COVID. I thought it was just, I don't know, I need more coffee. And that Friday, I still worked. I still worked from home, and I was drinking just lots of coffee to stay awake. By Saturday, I was like kind of back to normal, and then, but never thought it was COVID. Then I normally go to the doctor every August around my birthday to get like a yearly checkup. Didn't go in August because I was still very reluctant to just not go to the doctor unless it was an emergency. Didn't end up getting my checkup till November of 2020. And during the regular checkup where they're doing blood work, the doctor was like, they're already checking for everything else. Do you want to see if you have antibodies for COVID? And I was like, sure, why not? Thinking that it's going to be, I'm not going to have antibodies because I didn't have a cold in all of 2020.
That's crazy.
And then I kind of thought, well, we're all masked up, so of course I'm not going to get a cold or a flu. And then, he calls me back 3 days later, and he's like, everything's fine. Cholesterol's good. Sugar's good. You're healthy. And by the way, you have antibodies for COVID. I was like, what? was like, what
Yeah.
does that mean? He's like,
Wow.
you had COVID. I'm like, that is insane
That's
because
wild.
I
Yeah.
didn't have any symptoms. So
Wow.
you know, and I mean, luckily I was already home. I wasn't out and about, and you know, if I had to go out, I would wear a mask. But you know, if I wasn't careful, I could have easily been spreading this and not know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I guess I also lucked out that I didn't have anything
Seriously,
serious
yeah.
True.
other than that sense of tightness, which is weird. Like, it was just like my mind, like I couldn't concentrate, like super foggy, and I couldn't stay awake. So
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That
That's
it hits every person differently, and
Mhm.
that's why
the big
this
thing,
is
yeah.
this is why, you know, even though we are vaccinated and boosted, and we had obviously a big level of confidence, and then I could feel that like definitely being vaccinated was working, even though I was having these symptoms. You know, they were not the worst. But it just to show you you don't want to really play with fire.
Mhm.
You never really know, and you know, it could, you know, like it could just have, you know, not really much of an effect. But then, you know, you never know, someone else, a little complication can lead to other things. So definitely so important that people just keep masking, be vaccinated, because I personally feel like it would have been worse for me, probably worse for you had we not been vaccinated for sure, if we didn't have the vaccine. So that definitely helped us, you know, have symptoms that didn't, you know, take us to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, and that's the scariest part of
Yeah.
COVID is that it's a something we've never seen before and never fought before. And it's just so unique to every
And
person.
unpredictable.
And that's the thing. And I hope that people, you know, aren't saying like, oh, well, I have the vaccine, I'm going to be good, or I have this, I'm going to be good, or I have this condition, I'm going to be good. You never know, you know, even if you do have the vaccine, maybe you have an underlying condition, but especially obviously if you're not protected in any way, COVID can attack something that you may not even know that you had, or you can be super lucky and just not even know, like you know.
yeah.
That's the scariest part, is that like even when we had COVID, it was a little different between us, and there was like a day when it was really bad for me, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I hope it doesn't get worse.
Yeah.
Like,
That
I hope
was
I don't have to
scary.
go to the hospital or something. Like, I just didn't know, but then it went away in an hour or so. It really
yeah. And was it more like, was it more scary now having had COVID, or like, because I remember early on during the pandemic, like I was super scared. Like
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
in you know, if we go back to like March of 2020,
Yeah.
April, like at the height of this,
Yeah.
when like over by the Costco on Third, they had you know, all those 18 wheelers with like bodies of
Yeah. Oh my
you know,
god.
it was just really scary, and I almost feel like that sense of fear maybe has kind of gone down a little bit. Like I remember, like if I ordered, you know, groceries or whatever, like
Mhm.
disinfecting everything, you know, and if a package came in from like UPS, like Lysoling the heck out of it, you know.
Oh
But I
yeah.
think now it's like a little, you know, a little more relaxed. I don't know if like
Yeah.
when you guys tested positive, were you like like super scared, or like, we'll get through this, we're vaccinated, we're all right? Or was it that like same fear from like, I mean, I know I had that fear back in like early
Yeah.
March, April
Well,
of 2020.
I wouldn't say I had the same level of fear. I definitely think had I gotten this without being vaccinated back, let's say in 2020, I would have been definitely much more scared. I was very cautious though when I first tested positive, and Jacqui tested positive. You know, there was still an uncertainty and still fear, but still confidence that more likely than not things will eventually, you know, be okay because we're protected. So definitely I wouldn't say as scared as 2020, but still the uncertainty, because, you know, we're seeing it, and I think we're seeing that on New York City, that, you know, even though the symptoms are different, the Omicron variant are different than the other variant, and that it leads to less hospitalization because of how widespread Omicron is. We're actually seeing an incredible spike in hospitalizations now in New York City, because it might not be that many hospitalization per person who gets COVID, but because there's so many people getting COVID, it's actually starting to really, there's a lot of people in the ICU right now. And that is just, something that people should take very seriously, because, reaching that capacity or close to that capacity means that things get complicated very quickly when that capacity is reached. So I think that even though, it's been almost 2 years and we, maybe are not as scared, we should still be very, very careful, because we never know at the end of the day, how it can affect an individual person with other underlying conditions. And we want to just make sure to be as protected as possible, because, there was one day, like Jacqui said, where it was, not the best. So very, very important to still be cautious. And we definitely were.
Yeah.
So you guys were feeling like, so the whole thing lasted like a week?
Yeah, I would say probably like 6-7 days.
Yeah, 7 days.
7 days, because it also felt like it was over again, like for a day, and then it wasn't the next day. And I think that it was interesting on the body, like it was very exhausting. And even like we had neighbors drop off some food and things, which was very sweet. And the cat is like totally trying to knock over the Christmas tree right now. But even like going down and up the apartment stairs, the apartment building stairs was like, I got back in and I was like, oh my God, like I'm exhausted from doing that. Or like sometimes making food or something, and you get exhausted. And I think that even after, I will say that, like, I will preface as a PSA to everybody also, when you get COVID, if you get COVID, you can call the city, you can call Test and Trace, and they have people to talk to you in every language spoken in New York City. And they have free nurse hotlines. You can talk to the nurses as many times as you want throughout the whole time, and ask them any questions. They're experts in COVID symptoms and everything, and they can give you resources, housing resources, food resources. So as soon as I found out I was positive, I called Test and Trace and told them about both of us. And, they give you instructions and they send it to you via email as well. They ask if you need any note for anyone, for either your work or any other obligations you might have that excuses you for 10 full days. And they tell you, like, they're very serious about it. They say, you're staying inside for 10 days. You can go outside. You cannot talk to anyone. You have to test on the 10th or 11th day. Like, they do not recommend test before the 10th day, because it's just, I don't know, it's just not an accurate result if you test before the 10 days. They want to make sure that, you definitely have enough time probably to kick it out of your system. And so on the 10th day, at the end of the day, we did take a test and it was negative. But it's no joke. Vaccinated, unvaccinated, Delta, Omicron, whatever COVID you have, it's
no joke.
It's no joke.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, and never ever in my life did I ever think, I would ever experience something like this. Is the kind of stuff like you read about like in history class, and it's crazy that we're living through it. But I mean, if we can learn anything from history, I mean, previous generations survived these things, and I think we will get through it as well.
Like a movie almost.
Yeah, completely. And I still can't believe early on during COVID, there was people who were against wearing masks. And if you went back and looked at pictures of previous pandemics, let's say 100 years ago, people wearing masks. They knew 100 years ago that you had to wear masks, and I just couldn't believe that it was kind of ridiculous, but also comical at the same time, that there was people that were against wearing masks. And then all those previous generations waited years for vaccines, and there's just hard scientific proof that vaccines work. I mean, we nobody dies of the chickenpox anymore. Nobody dies of the measles anymore.
Yeah.
And then people are still resistant to vaccines. I mean, they work. It's the science proves it. And people from generations ago couldn't wait for there to possibly be a vaccine to help us get through this. And we're able to do this because obviously we live in different times where science is more advanced and technologies have existed and have been in place for years, that it was a lot quicker to get these vaccines out there. And
Mhm.
there's still that reluctancy to get
Yeah.
vaccinated. And it's just like, I can't believe this. Like, how do I, put some sense into you that vaccines work, and that's it's it's interesting. It's sad, and sometimes, like I said, borderline comical. Like, vaccines are the answer, but I don't know how we changed that or how we got to that.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I think the back in those days when the polio vaccine came out, there wasn't they didn't politicize it, and I think that's what's changed. If we look at vaccination and hesitancy, and even it unfortunately falls not completely, but a lot by political lines, and that is very unfortunate that certain political leaders have tried to politicize public health, politicize vaccines that save lives. No one complained when the polio vaccine which is still mandatory for children to go into schools. No one really was complaining much about that. And then, now everyone's saying that they're against, vaccine, this COVID vaccine, when everyone who's against the COVID vaccine has taken so many vaccines throughout their whole lives. And it's because it was politicized, because, people who knew better, and I think that's very important to realize, people who absolutely knew better, political leaders who knew better, decided that they wanted to politicize this. And there's a lot of misinformation on the internet.
Oh
so
my God.
definitely it's very important to correct that and make it very clear that vaccines are, especially this one, this is not something that was just created in 2020. It was sped up with more money and scientific research ever poured into a vaccine. But the model for mRNA has been going on for a long time.
Mhm.
It's not that new either.
Yeah, and I think the mRNA delivery is used also in cancer treatment. The same delivery system that is used to deliver this vaccine, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's bizarre, but yeah, it's definitely a political thing where and people, I don't know, people fall for it, but talking about politics and moving into politics, we can't not mention Jacqui jumping into politics again, if you will.
Yep.
What's that all about, Jacqui?
Yes. Bella had something to say, so she came up here as well. She got jealous of us all having a good time without her. Yeah. So I have decided to run for female district leader here in our Assembly District 51, which is very exciting. District leaders there are 2 district leaders per assembly district. So our assembly district is 51, like I said. And we have an incumbent male district leader, Julio Pena III, and I am running on a joint ticket with him. So I'm running for the female seat, and he's running for the male seat again for his reelection. And it's very important because, as we were just speaking about, we're at a very tumultuous political time right now still. And the Democratic Party really has an opportunity to step up their game, especially when it comes to local Democratic politics. Our local party is actually very structured, and most people don't even know that. The lowest seat that you can actually run for is county committee member of the Brooklyn Democratic Party. This is something that should be news to everyone. It should be well-known information. And being a county committee member means that you kind of represent like your block, or maybe it's a couple blocks. It's your election district within the assembly district. So that usually is a very, very small part around your house. And there's like over 5,000 county committee members in Kings County. And they do important things like vote on judicial nominations and party rules and party policies. And then the district leaders, again, they kind of go above the county committee, and there's 2 per assembly districts. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really good. It's hopefully Julio and I running together, is a real Sunset Park and Red Hook ticket together. We really want to unify our district, and we really want to bring a transparency that we've never seen before. It's an unpaid position as well, which is fantastic for me. And it's going to be great. It's really diving into also voting rules. There are so many things that we don't know about in terms of just general voting elections. We usually get the information too late. We don't really know when polls are open, when they're closed, how to become a poll worker. There's all these just things that we take, that we don't understand why it's not public knowledge. And it's complicated. They make it complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated. And I really, this past November, during the general election in 2021, it kind of was my last straw. I was very discouraged because we actually had local voting propositions that were on our ballot, and they were to expand voting rights in elections in New York City. And like, for example, one of them, there were 5, and one of them was same-day registration, voter registration. And this is such a key factor to eliminating voter suppression. It's something that would really help everyone, especially in a district like ours, in a district that gets forgotten about a lot of times, or gets put to the lower end of the list for resources. And same-day voter registration would be amazing for young people, for any age. And it failed. All the ballot propositions failed. So I believe that it's partly the fault of the Brooklyn Democratic Party. They should have been out there. Everyone in the Democratic Party should have informed voting Democrats that this was a thing that you'll be voting for. So don't skip this part. And here's what it means. Maybe you don't need to read all the legal fine print. Here's what it is in simple language. But no one never does that. And it's a shame. So I'm going to do it. With Julio.
and it says a lot about someone who's willing to take on a role like this that's unpaid. Right? I mean, you don't get any more proof of that love for community than to take on a leadership role that is completely unpaid, and you're doing it because of love for the community, and the party here locally does need leadership, and that's crucial. But
thanks.
How easy or how difficult was that decision to get back into politics, if you will?
Yeah.
Was Carlos saying yes, don't do it, or do it, don't do it? Like what?
Yeah.
Carlos, did you have a say in this?
Well,
he had a say every day, about 5 times a day.
I really thought that Jacqui is going to be excellent in this role, and not just my thought. Jacqui was approached by so many community leaders and activists and organizations, and I agreed. I think that she will be an excellent district leader, and that's it. The time is now, as Jacqui mentioned. Our democracy is in crisis, and our local Brooklyn Democratic Party is one of the biggest in the country, with over 1.5 million Democrats. Yet we're not seeing that being used to actually create change, and there needs to be a change in leadership. But we see that at every level, how there's no transparency and even anti-democratic measures And something that Jacqui and I talk about is that Brooklyn Democrats need to fight for voting rights.
Need to be the leaders.
Yeah, just as much in Brooklyn than they are in Georgia. We talk a lot about Georgia, and absolutely we need to fight for voting rights there, but we need to set an example here in the most democratic, one of the most democratic boroughs.
People should look to us.
Yeah.
For an example.
Absolutely.
We're Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We're Brooklyn.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. New York City, one of the most diverse city in the nation, the city of immigration, the city of, other hot dogs.
So was it an easy decision? Was it difficult?
It was very difficult. Carlos, he told me to do it about 25 times a day, every single day. But it was a very difficult decision. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but running for office is hard. It's really hard. And I really think that part isn't talked about enough. People tell you it's hard, but it's just so physically and mentally demanding every day, every second of the day. While you're sleeping, because you're not really sleeping, it's a hard thing, and no one really likes to, I guess, think or talk about if you do lose. It's even harder. The logical side of me, of course, always tells myself that we did a great job, which we did, and we brought a lot of key issues to the table. We had an amazing campaign full of amazing community members, but we still lost. And that is something that's very hard to handle mentally. And for, not only are you physically exhausted, not only are you mentally exhausted, but now you feel like a loser. Of course, again, the rational part of me always felt like a winner in some ways, and we can all say that, and it would be lovely and nice. But again, you lost, and it's hard. This whole summer was not an easy one for me, and I think that needs to be talked about. You put everything you have into it. I ran for office. I had to step down at my job. It's unpaid when you run for office. You just have to do it. You have to put all your money into it and just do it. And then it's over. And then you have nothing for it. You have no job lined up, basically, in the end. You gain, of course, it was something that I gained so much from. So many people I met, so many experiences I've had, and so many issues we brought to light again. But at the time, you're not really feeling like that. You're kind of feeling bad. And for that summer, for this summer, I didn't do a lot. I'm someone who's always out there and always at community events, but you need that time off. You need to mentally recover. You need to kind of get your groove back. And I totally was like, no, I'm never going to do this again. This is it. It was over. We did a great job, but it's never happening again. I've told Carlos that many times. I've told a lot of people that many times. But my love of my life is my neighborhood and my community and our district. And I don't think anyone will ever truly know how much of that is absolutely true. It breaks my heart to see what's happening and see these ballot propositions not passing and see people just, again, make decisions from the top down and only include, their buddies and their friends and other powerful individuals, and not the people who I see every day making actual change that matters. The three of us, we are community members who are out there and organizing, and community leaders and talking to all these people and everything. And there's so many organizations in our district. These are the people that work every day. In my head, it's not the top-down people. It's the people that work every single day and actually make change that we can all see, that we can feel. And the Democratic Party should be picking out these people one by one and saying, you deserve a seat at the table. I want to know what's important to you. And I don't want you to tell me, you should tell everybody. And that's what has to happen. And that's, I think, when change will really happen, obviously, is when we include everyone at the table. And this is a small way for me to try to invite everybody to the table yet again.
And I go back to that, right? It says a lot about someone's character who takes a little time off and then clears their mind and says, I got to get back out there because there's still change needs to happen, and I want to help be part of that change. And because of so much care and love for the community, that you get back out there. And I think that you have a lot to be proud of, right? Running for office, like you said, is not easy, and it takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there and to door knock and to talk to people, and that takes a lot of courage to do. And even after a loss, right? Like I always tried to view losses as more than a loss, or it's not a loss, but it's what you learn from that,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't think you or anyone should ever feel like, I don't know, you use the word loser, like a loser, like it's tough. It's always tough to lose, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
That's what's in your head,
And but you never lose. You just learn, right? Like that was you learn from that. And it's also has to be tough as a partner of someone who's running for office and then seeing everything that they're going through. Like how can you be there for that for your loved one, for your partner, and make them feel like everything's gonna be okay, like everything's okay. Okay, it was a defeat, but we keep going. Like that also has to be work and pressure for the person that's right next to you. I mean,
Yeah, well, I went out
going through that, Carlos.
I went all in, and I'm still all in. As her campaign manager as well. I mean, I completely agree with you when you say it really, is inspiring, not only as her, partner and campaign manager, but just someone who saw her every single day, was working with her every single day throughout almost a year. But even before she ran, all the work that she was doing and we were doing together, it is very inspiring, and it is a unique perspective seeing the candidate and her, in her best and her most difficult, and definitely being there is something that is very special. And I think Jacqui's so strong because I think that only the person who runs and the person who is, very close to the person who runs can understand what that process is every single day. Because as Jacqui mentioned, even when you're sleeping, you're thinking, they're probably campaigning. The opponents are probably campaigning. I should be campaigning, and as campaign manager and partner, I saw everything, and I saw every single moment and struggle that we went through, and also victory. Even though there's an election where you either win or you lose, there are victories throughout that whole time. There are debates that go excellent, and that is something that is beautiful to see. And Jacqui was just so excellent on the debate stage. When Jacqui was on the rallies on that bullhorn, those moments were all very inspiring when the community was coming out. And and especially, we ran a campaign that I'm so proud of, that really, we didn't have, it was our first time, and, as campaign manager and candidate, and we had the least amount of money, yet we really showed the strength of, Jacqui's vision and her voice and the work we did and the people we included. And even though overall we might have not ended up winning, we won the hearts and minds of a lot of people. And for, a lot of people in the district, we were, Jacqui was the candidate that they voted for to be, the next representative for them. And I think it was definitely an experience that has, really changed me. I mean, it's a very raw experience, doing this work and running a campaign like we did. But I definitely feel closer than ever to Jacqui and to each other, and
That's awesome.
we learned a lot.
Yeah,
We learned a lot about each other. We learned about also just in general, campaigning. And when Jacqui says running for office is hard, it is. It's very hard. There's so many complicating components, and I've been working in campaign for years. Yet, this is an experience that in less than a year learned probably more than years working in campaigns at different levels when you work in this capacity. But I definitely am very inspired by how Jacqui not only through the entire campaign just kept going. I was obviously there motivating her, and she would motivate me. And as the campaign manager, you're always thinking everything's going wrong. You're always freaking out, trying to make sure she doesn't freak out, but I'm freaking out about everything and making sure everything's going right, and a bit, being as realistic and pragmatic as possible, trying to look at the glass half full, even though it might not have water at that second, but still looking at it. So definitely, was an experience that was deep and was big, and we're ready to do it again. I'm going to be her campaign manager. However, I think when you say that when you lose and you completely give up in everything, then that's when you lose. But when you keep going, keep fighting, you're right. It's only a learning experience. And because of the campaign and very successful campaign that we ran, we're in very good position to be victorious. We're a very good path to victory. The community is coming together for Jacqui and Julio together, and this is the moment. So I'm very excited for the future and for us to keep fighting and to win this election.
It was definitely a great campaign, and one of the things that I really enjoyed about as an observer watching the campaign and everything that you all were working on was the excitement in Red Hook that we hadn't seen, if ever, right? Like it always felt like Sunset Park had all the attention and all eyes were always on Sunset Park whenever these elections came around. And here was a candidate from Red Hook getting Red Hook folks super excited about the election. And I think that was nice to see. And also an example of the potential that is there. And if a candidate really focuses on bringing the issues and the concerns of neighbors in Red Hook to the forefront, it basically put the district and everyone around in the district on notice, right? Because a lot of times it always felt like Red Hook was ignored. I mean, even after a gigantic superstorm that took place years ago, even with all that, like it almost felt like Red Hook was still getting left out. And I think you all should be extremely proud of that campaign and one of those something to kind of check off that bucket list. The victory didn't go as you expected, but what you learned from it, and you're continuing to do the work, and you're doing it now. So that's a lot to be proud of. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for saying all that. Thank you as well. Yeah. I mean, I'm extremely proud of what we did. I'm extremely proud of everyone who helped. And I'm extremely proud of the issues that we brought to the table and how hard we fought, and what we were able to accomplish was absolutely amazing. It was an experience that, like you said, was a learning experience, and one that I'm very glad that I had, and glad that those moments that I shared with community members throughout our district, all the way down, almost to the tip of Bay Ridge there, all the way back up to Red Hook, are priceless moments, priceless conversations, and almost, makes me want to fight harder for everyone. Whether you live in South Slope, Sunset Park, Bay Ridge, Red Hook, Greenwood Heights, we can go into Windsor Terrace, we can go into little names as well. But it's, like I said, I shouldn't be making decisions for everyone. I don't think anyone should. I think that the decisions need to come from the mouths and hearts of the people that live here. And that's what I hope to do as district leader.
Yeah, and if you could, I guess, offer our new current council member any advice on what issues you think need to be at the forefront of, speaking Red Hook, right? Like, and again, I mean, I don't, as Red Hook residents, has that been the feeling as well, that like Red Hook kind of gets left out
Oh my
of,
God,
of the
yes,
big picture?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
in
so,
everything.
so what does a local elected official in this district have to do so that that feeling goes away and Red Hook feels like they're being taken care of?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'm very excited to have Alexa in that seat. Very excited for, barriers that she's broken down as well. She is female, so I'm a strong female woman who I'm very excited about. And I think that, keeping conversation lines open is very important. Making sure that you don't have Red Hook people feel left out, making sure that you're not just keeping the lines open, but you're checking in with community members, with organizations. Here in Red Hook, we have very strong organizations that have really taken us out of the effects from Superstorm Sandy and everything else that happens here in Red Hook. And I think that obviously environmental issues are at the forefront. Adding to environmental issues, we have last mile trucking facilities that are coming into Red Hook, multiple last mile trucking facilities. We have toxic soil still from Sandy. We have 457 trees that got cut down, and we need to protect our waterfront, obviously now more than ever. Along the whole waterfront, it would be great to even try to connect our waterfront even more. Obviously the New York City Ferry, the stop at the Sunset Park terminal, and then here in Red Hook is a great connection, but let's see what else we can do there. And obviously the Red Hook houses, even though NYCHA is a federal issue, there are things that the city council office can push for. There are things that they can advocate for, and there are things that they can learn about the problems and further push along, even small issues, like someone has their gas not working or a stove that's out or something like that. If this council member passes that information along to someone at NYCHA, most likely that issue will get fixed quicker. So constituent services, making sure that they, really attend to NYCHA residents as well and make sure that NYCHA residents are seen, heard, and serviced, making sure that service goes smoothly. I think that's the advice I'll give. And you can call me anytime, Alexa.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe even I've kind of mentioned this a few times to previous candidates and to previous council members, that perhaps there needs to be an office, a satellite office, or just a regular office where people in Red Hook can come in and voice their concerns or seek out resources. And some have promised or mentioned that that this is something that they would consider, but definitely I think there should be an office somewhere in Red Hook that constituents can go and visit and be taken care of locally, so that they don't have to come all the way out to Sunset Park whenever they need something.
I agree with you. Satellite office would be great. And, we know the budget's tight, especially after COVID, but starting maybe with just office hours in Red Hook at the library or in the coffee shop or something.
Right.
Or maybe a small business can lend, the office their room or whatever. That would be great too. That's a great way to start.
Yeah,
If we can't get the satellite office up and running right away.
absolutely, absolutely. And I want to thank you for spending your Friday evening with us. I am super happy and glad that you're all feeling better.
Yes, thank
That you look great. You look like you're back to normal, and that's great. I'm happy that you were able to get through this, and you're healthy. So I appreciate all the work that you do in the community. You're leaders in this community, people that I look up to, and I'm proud to call friends. So thank you for everything that you do for Red Hook, for Sunset Park. It means a lot, and the work does not go unnoticed. And we wish you all the best in this campaign that you're running, and I know that the results will be way different this time. I'm extremely certain. I'm extremely certain.
That's-
So for that, thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
yes, thank you. We really appreciate the work that you're doing, and
Mhm.
really, this getting information out to the community is crucial, and you're really doing the work. So thank you for having us. We
Thank
love
you.
that.
That means a lot.
See
Have
you
a
again
great.
soon.
Yes, yes. No, I mean you're welcome to come back whenever you want, and this is always a lot of fun when we catch up, and this is a great way to spend a Friday evening in the new year. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peace.
And I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. We will be back here next Friday at the same time with another great guest. Next week we have Dr. David Essel, who is going to talk to us about all things mental health wise, and so you make sure you tune in for that. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. I'll see you all in the promised land.